to clean it up. The state Supreme Court is expected to issue a ruling in the next few months. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
Will Jair be back with the Pack? Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. NFL, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst asked today, will Jair Alexander be back next season? The veteran defensive back has missed nearly half of the games the past 2 years due to injuries, yet he's due to earn $16 million this year.
We're at the beginning stages of just kind of gathering information before we start looking at next year and how we're going to lay this thing out.
NBA, the Bucks have the night off after beating the Magic 122-93. They'll host the Raptors tomorrow night. Baseball, it was simply the best. Brewers play-by-play announcer Bob Uecker has died.
And the pitch. Hit in the air to right and deep. Get up! Get up! Get out of here, Garrett Mitchell! He just hit a walk-off out of here! And the Brewers have swept the New York Mets!
His family says he had been battling a form of lung cancer since 2023. Bob Uecker was 90. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy and mild for the season, lows in the low 20s. More clouds and warmer tomorrow, highs to the upper 30s and breezy. For the weekend, much colder temperatures and a bitter breeze. Mid-teens Saturday, maybe 0 Sunday. Right now it's 33.
The 2025 draft is a few short weeks away. Experience it up close and personal with the help of Simple Life Hospitality. Homes are now available for booking, and locations are renting fast. Choose from homes to fit every budget and create unforgettable memories during this once-in-a-lifetime event. Enjoy exceptional concierge services while you visit the Cathedral of Stadiums. And don't forget, Simple Life Hospitality gift certificates make the perfect surprise. Book now at simpleliferentals.com and make your draft experience unforgettable.
Let's get back to live music in the Lair with Kaylin Colt. The next song you have for us tonight is called 1103.
Yes.
Is that a time or a flight number?
Oh, that's actually really good. That's a good idea. I think I might have to write another song with that. You'll get 50%.
It's live in the Lair. Grab the podcast now at MaxIncRadio.com and listen live on Saturday nights, 6 to midnight across the Civic Media Radio Network.
Dom Selvia.
Next time, we will revisit our conversation with Harvey K on Jimmy Carter's legacy and the two very different January 6th anniversaries. Tune in.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Night Light with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy still not convinced computers are here to stay, Pete Schwaba.
Good evening, Wisconsin. Welcome to Nightlight. I am Pete Schwaba. Great to have you with me. Thank you for joining us, as always, here at Civic Media. We are broadcasting live statewide from beautiful downtown Green Bay. I have to say, right out of the gate, so much has happened today. I can't even, keep my thoughts straight. We had two huge passings today, Bob Uecker and David Lynch. Bob Uecker from the sports world, David Lynch from the famous director. We've got... We've added guests. We're trying to keep up with the news because it is entertainment news. They are both they're both entertainers. Bob Uecker in the sports world, as I mentioned, and from the movie world. And David Lynch, obviously a titan in Hollywood with all of his contributions movie-wise. David Lynch made huge feature films, but he also, a lot of people might not know this, made a ton of short films that were artistic and more like almost like graphic art. But he passed away today at the age of 78. And Conrad, Bob Uecker was 90, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Boy, that's a good run, even if you're not still working full time like he did. He worked a full season last year, right? Calling Brewer games.
I don't even think it's work for him, you know?
True. Do we know his cause of death? Was it just old age or?
Well, if you heard during the break, Mike Clemens said that he was battling with lung cancer.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I was making a bathroom run during Mike's sportscast. Is that too much information? People go to the bathroom. I shouldn't have to apologize for it. Very sorry to see Bob Uecker pass, though. My favorite Bob Uecker stuff or contribution that he made, I would hear him periodically on the radio calling Brewers games, which he was so great at. But it's Major League. He was so funny in Major League. And I read a book when I was a kid. I cannot remember the title of it, but it was just Bob Uecker stories. And he told stories about kind of hard partying after games and how baseball used to be back in the day. I'm not even sure I was supposed to be reading them as a kid, but you got the sense that he just loved life. And he loved to party, and he loved fishing, if memory serves me correctly. But we have a special top secret guest that's going to join us tonight at 7:05 to talk about Bob Uecker. So you're just going to have to stick around to find out who that is, or I'll just tell you right now. His name is John Egan, and he's a comedian. And he's been on the show before, and he hosts Brewers podcasts. So I think John would be a great guy to talk to. And Mike Clemens is on the show tomorrow night. I didn't want to ask him to do double duty, so we'll get Mike's take on Uecker's passing tomorrow night as well. Conrad, do you have thoughts? I mean, you're a big-time Wisconsin sports fan. What do you think about Bob Uecker?
Yeah, it's really devastating. Just thinking of every moment I loved with the Brewers, you hear him in it every single moment. So it really does. It sucks, but his legacy will live on forever in Brewers baseball.
Absolutely, and he's immortalized as well in the film Major League. So great. He had comedy chops. I mean, he was a funny guy by nature. And it's weird, like with baseball announcers, it seems like the bigger names all had something different to contribute. Like Uecker was really engaging, also so incredibly knowledgeable as a former player. You've got guys like Vin Scully who have this mellow, smooth voice that almost perfectly matches the picture you're seeing when you watch baseball. Then you had crazies like Harry Carey who were just kind of loud and sort of made it more about themselves. And then you got guys like Bob Uecker who I think like Milwaukee realizes what a treasure he was because he was so knowledgeable. And he was just remember the Lite beer commercial? When he was, we'll have to find that. It's Bob Uecker sitting up in the nosebleeds. And the last line in the commercial is, he missed the tag, I must be in the front row. We'll have to find that. Because I just got news of David Lynch's passing, and I was trying to find Bob Uecker stuff. So anyway, we have a great show tonight. Just wanted to get that out of the way at the top of the broadcast that Bob Uecker had passed away. I'm sure you already heard that. But in fact, let's do the question. Let's get the ball rolling on the question, Conrad, before we announce the guests, because I think this could be fun with regarding Bob Uecker.
Let's talk about the question.
Okay, question.
Question. Pregunta. Question. Hey, I have a question. Questions? This question.
Domanda.
Question. Questions.
What comes to mind when you think of Bob Uecker? That's tonight's question, folks. Pretty straightforward. You can share something you heard him say, if you met him, a fond memory, what he did that made you laugh, like if it was Major League or the commercials I was just talking about. What comes to mind when you think of Bob Uecker? That is tonight's Nightlight question of the night. Let us know, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. You can text us on the app. It's so easy to use. Whatever station you are listening on through the app, just click the little text icon and let us know what you're thinking. And Conrad, how can people watch the radio?
So on Facebook, we're under WISS, Nightlight with Pete Schwaba, and WGBW. On YouTube, it's WGBW or Civic Media. And on Twitter, it is Civic Media or WGBW.
Find us any way you can, but just find us. We love when you guys are part of the show. We had a lot of great responses to last night's question. Our guest tonight at 6:35, this is very exciting. Wisconsin Foodie is about to start its new season. I want to say it's the 16th. Wisconsin Foodie creator and executive producer Arthur Ursink will be here. We've had Arthur on the show before. He's a lot of fun to talk to. He'll give us some... Whenever I talk to Arthur, I'm always curious, like, I feel like when we have access to people like Arthur or Sherry the other night, I always want to get information out of them about healthy stuff. So we'll ask Arthur about healthy Super Bowl snacks. We've had that discussion in the past, and Arthur's a really sharp guy. He's a great filmmaker, and he knows a lot about food, and he has had an incredible run on Wisconsin Foodie. Just a great show right here in Wisconsin that celebrates food and the stories behind food. So Arthur will be here at 6:30. Then we have a surprise top secret guest named John Egan. John is the host of Another Brewers podcast, and he is a big-time Wisconsin sports fan. I just met John about 2 months ago. He's going to do a comedy night for me up in Marinette, a charity event, and he was a great guest on the show, and he's a big-time Brewer fan. So we'll talk to John a little bit about Bob Uecker's legacy. That's around 7:05, 7:10, right in that wheelhouse. And then at 7:35, there's kind of a cool thing happening up in Marinette. That is my hometown. And all these campuses, these branch campuses, UW campuses, a lot of them are closing. And the question is, what do we do with them? Do they just get torn down? Do they get converted to condos? Well, the one in Marinette is right on the water. Formerly UW Marinette, then it became UW Green Bay Marinette campus. It's a beautiful campus right near the water. They have a great theater. My daughter did kids theater there until she left for college. It's just a really great facility, and I feel very fortunate that Marinette has a facility like that. So the question now becomes, what do you do with these buildings? Well, there's a group in Marinette called the ACC that are putting their heads together and trying to make some change in the community. It's called the Association for Community and Culture, and it's been formed with an effort to save a beloved theater space and repurpose these facilities. They're trying to bring culture and preserve culture in the Marinette-Menominee area. And joining me to discuss that issue will be Wendy DeZurek and Trig Rude. They will be here on the stream at 7:35. And I'm going to ask them, too, can this happen in other cities? It hasn't been done yet, but they're trying to convince the county board in Marinette to apply for this $2 million grant. We'll get more information from Wendy and Trig, but it's just a great undertaking. And I feel like a lot of towns, especially towns the size of Marinette, you can never have too much culture. Not every kid can play sports. Not every kid can do 4-H. Not every kid can do home ec or whatever. Arts and culture should be part of the fabric in many Wisconsin towns as far as I'm concerned. And when we do that, I think we'll have a better shot at getting film incentives here. Just helping brand Wisconsin and some of our smaller towns a little better with theater and culture. It's great for kids. You learn a lot of the same lessons you learn in sports, coming together, being part of a team, hitting your marks, pulling your weight. Terrific, terrific activities for kids. And it's not all about being on stage. You have to build sets. You have to paint. You need set designers, carpenters. So many people have fun backstage, too. Anyway, in Marinette, we have this great facility. I hope they can keep it going. I hope they bring more arts and culture there, because I would hate to see the campus fall into disrepair or just have someone buy it and tear it down and build things that I don't want, Conrad. We'll talk to Wendy and Trig at 7:35. That'll be a fun conversation. But right now, we're talking about Bob Uecker, who passed away at the age of 90. And that is our question of the night. What do you think of when you think of Bob Uecker? What comes to mind? Such a treasure we had here in Wisconsin. And the good thing about Uecker, I think he truly was appreciated. I think people recognized during his life that he was such an asset to our sports fabric here in Wisconsin. And the Brewers. That's a loss. David Lynch is a loss. If you have a favorite David Lynch movie, I thought maybe we would do this tomorrow, but favorite David Lynch movie. David Lynch lived outside of Madison for a while. He died today at 78. And he is the brainchild, the creator of such films as Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet was the first David Lynch film I saw, and it blew my mind. I was 18 years old. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It had themes and topics that were very foreign to me, with a great cast: Dennis Hopper, Isabella Rossellini, Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern. Such a fun movie to watch. from the perspective of an 18-year-old, because it was just like nothing. It was nothing like Ghostbusters or Star Wars. It was an adult movie, so to speak. But yeah, he made other films like Wild at Heart, created the TV show Twin Peaks, Lost Highway, and as I mentioned, The Straight Story, which I have to give a revisit. Oscar-winning movie. David Lynch lived outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So we will read all your texts when we come back. Really fun show. Some great varied topics tonight. Hope you'll be a part of it. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
They got you down on your knees. So polite, we're busy still saying please. Friend, no means, but when you're down, ain't your friend. Every night, I smash a Mercedes Benz. First we run, and then we laugh till we cry. But when the night is falling, you cannot find the light.
Moving on to Alloway. This is 97.9 WGBW.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too. Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The Dom Salvia Show.
Jack Smith's report. Maggie, prosecutors considered charging Trump with inciting insurrection, but didn't.
There's an old saying, if you shoot at the king, don't miss. If it's someone who's really powerful or really rich, I gotta be absolutely certain I can prove every charge beyond a reasonable doubt. When it's people that don't have means, then it's I'll throw every conceivable charge at you.
The Dom Salvia Show. Weekdays from 4 till 6 on the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app. The Todd Alba Show.
What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? Karina listening on WAUK in Milwaukee.
Slow drivers are the worst. They think too slow. They stop in the middle of the highway to think about where they're going. Maybe they need to turn left and right. They changing lines for oh my God, I can do all day long.
Karina,
yes,
can you tell us what you really think?
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody.
Through all of fatherhood's first, never stop being a dad. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store.
To have you with me on this Thursday night. Conrad, what is your favorite day of the week?
Oh, it's got to be Friday.
See, Friday's almost anticlimactic. Thursday is like the eve of the weekend. It's like a little mini Christmas Eve every week.
That I was just about to say that. So it's your Christmas Eve of every week.
Yeah. And it's important to have as many Christmas Eves as possible. Great to have you with me tonight on this Thursday here at Nightlight. Bob Uecker has passed away. David Lynch passed away. A couple titans in their industries. Our question of the night is, what do you think of when Bob Uecker comes to mind? Share a memory. If you met him, share that story. Anything you want about Bob Uecker. Maybe we'll do David Lynch tomorrow night. But we got some text here coming in, which is great. Tom from New Berlin says his last full season was 2 years ago. Amazing. Yeah, I didn't know that. So he kind of had pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to baseball on the radio in a long time, so I had no idea. I just knew he was working, which is, if you're 89 or 90 and still working, even if you're just doing home games and speaking articulately and intelligently about baseball, that's incredible. to do as late into life as Bob Uecker did. Annie from Watertown says, "Oh, I hope we weren't the ones that broke that news to Annie." But she's in the 920. Tom from Jackson says, "Bob did not work many away games last year and missed some home games. Summer won't be the same." Yeah, it's tough when you lose someone who left such a legacy in sports. People on talk shows loved him. He used to go on, I think it was Carson. I know I've seen him on a ton of talk shows. I'm guessing it was Carson or Letterman. He was such a fun guest and so engaging. Tom says there will be a movie. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Annie from Watertown says, "Hadn't heard about Lynch. I referred many to Eraserhead back in the 70s. Entertained by reactions for years." I need to give some of these David Lynch films a rewatch. It's been so long. And to be honest, when I was younger, I would watch them because I felt like I should watch them because people I thought were hip or cool were talking about them. So I would try to muscle through them. But I might not have been ready for David Lynch movies at the age I was at. So now I'll watch them with a different eye. But that's great. And yeah, Eraserhead. I think Eraserhead is kind of the one that put him on the map. The first David Lynch film I saw, as I mentioned, was Blue Velvet. And it was horrific and horrifying and funny and crazy and weird. And Lost Highway was really creepy and eerie. I don't remember everything about that either. I do remember Robert Blake, who lived in my neighborhood when I lived in L.A., about 3 blocks away, was in that, and he was creepy. I want to say he played the devil. I need to refresh my memory on some David Lynch films. Steve from Florida, he is in the 920 and in Florida at the same time. Only Steve could pull that off. He says, "Grandma Krieger has great memories listening to the Brewers and play-by-play through the years by Bob Uecker. He will be very hard to replace." I don't think you can replace Bob Uecker. Hopefully you get someone who's engaging as well, but just, of course, they're going to be different. Bob Uecker was unique, and that's what all these sportscasters bring to that platform, is just who they are and their experiences. Some guys are great with their words and calling the game. Then you had a guy like Uecker who played the game and also called the game. That's why he was so great. Multi-talented when it came to that, when it came to announcing. Luann from Green Bay, she says, "Major League, Harry Doyle. Pete Vukovich, he leads the league in most offensive categories, including nose hair." I got to give that a rewatch, too. We were talking about that before the show, Conrad. Just a Bit Outside, classic. That's the name of the documentary, right? We had Sean
Just
Hanish.
a Bit Outside, yeah.
Sean, I see Sean Hanish's Facebook posts. He's busy dealing with the fires, so the last thing I'm sure he wants to do right now is come on talk radio, but I actually thought about trying to get Sean on the show because I remember he was on the show and he talked about interviewing Uecker for his Brewers documentary for Just a Bit Outside. Luann from Green Bay says another line from Uecker from Major League. He once threw at his kid in a father-son game. Oh, I forgot about that. That's a great one. Great line. Doesn't Uecker say at some point in that film too, like, "That'll close the book on Serrano"? Thank God. Like he covers the mic and turns to skip. From the 608, it says, "Uecker moved to Milwaukee and got exposed to Bob on Mr. Bell." Oh, I think she's saying regarding Uecker, "I moved to Milwaukee and got exposed to Bob." That's worded kind of funny. "I got exposed to Bob on Mr. Belvedere. I was 8. She says, MT from the Grove. Thank you for the text, MT. Tyler from Wisconsin Rapids says, "What did Bob Uecker say when David Lynch passed away? Get up, get up, get out of here." I like the way you tied that all together, Tyler. Well done. Comedy tactic. Beautiful. Tom from New Berlin says, "When he was in a playoff game just shagging balls in the outfield, the high school band was there, and he grabbed the tuba and started catching fly balls, and it was hilarious. He ended up paying $250 for the tuba." That was great. He says, that was Bob. Awesome. See, those are the kind of things I want to hear. I want to hear stuff about Bob Uecker. I mean, the lines from the movie are great, or what he said in the booth, but those things that you guys experienced on your own or when you crossed paths with him, those are the beautiful stories, but they're all good. 608 says, "Uecker talked to, about, and with many personalities. He informed and entertained us." He certainly did. Well said, 608. Annie from Watertown says, "Uecker, beer, smiles, and jokes. Sharing the fun. His persona? No, his personality was real. and we were in on the joke. Wow, that's a great observation, Annie. She says, brilliant or just really and honestly good person. I'll leave that to you, Annie. I'm not sure. I've never met him. Seems like a good guy. I've never heard people really badmouth him at all.
You know, at his statue in front of Miller Park, a bunch of people put flowers, Miller Lite cans, a bunch of nice things.
Nice.
Right in front of it, yeah.
That's great. I'm sure there will be when the baseball season opens, the Brewers will do something really cool for Bob Uecker, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right. Hey, after Civic Media's award-winning news team keeps you informed, we've got Arthur Ursink from Wisconsin Foodie about to start a new season, a 15-16 season run. This guy is just crushing it. And he created a really cool and really unique show. He'll be here to talk about it and give us some ideas for some healthy snacks. So great to have you with me on this Thursday night. It's the Christmas Eve of weekdays. I'm Pete Schwaba. This is Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It ain't no sin, take a ride in my machine. City traffic's moving way too slow. Drop the pedal and go. 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 We going riding on the freeway. Oh, love wins against our plans. We going riding on the freeway. Oh, love in my pink
Listening to the talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. A tourist attraction in Chippewa Falls will soon be no more. The famed Leinenkugel's brewery is set to shut down tomorrow, but the Leinenkugel family is hoping for a Hail Mary. Savannah Tomei Olsen has the story.
Molson Coors announced in November they'd be closing the historic brewery and sending production to Milwaukee. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewery first began there in Chippewa Falls in 1867. The Leinenkugel family is set to keep the Leine Lodge and a small pilot brewery. They've said this last week before the closure is like a funeral. Last weekend, the family, employees, and even retired staff all gathered to share memories. But now they have one last hope. Dick and Jake Leinenkugel confirmed to the Chippewa Herald they're trying to convince Molson Coors to let them keep the brewery under Leinenkugel's leadership. So far, the company hasn't taken them up on that offer, but they're staying optimistic. If it closes tomorrow, 56 people in Chippewa Falls and 34 in Milwaukee will lose their jobs. For Civic Media News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olsen.
Some Wisconsin residents are not fans of the new Department of Transportation's new winter road condition labels, starting a petition to bring back the old labels on the 511 Wisconsin app. The DOT uses the app to share road condition updates with drivers and recently replaced some labels like slippery and snow or ice covered with broader labels. They say the previous labels included conditions that could change quickly, leaving their map inaccurate at times. Critics say the old labels were important for delivery drivers who needed more specific updates. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. If you're looking for a trip down TV memory lane and were a fan of the show Twin Peaks, this might pique your interest. The murder mystery drama set in the Pacific Northwest will be available on Blu-ray box set. In addition to all the seasons, there will be 27 hours of behind the scenes and extra features. The box set doesn't officially drop until February 3rd, but you can currently pre-order it on Amazon for a cool $56. Actors work odd jobs to pay rent before their big break. For actor David Schwimmer, one of the gigs included serving divorce papers after his freshman year in college, thanks to his lawyer mother. The Friends actor and star of the new show Goosebumps told Stephen Colbert he once served singer Rod Stewart with divorce papers. Apparently, Alana Stewart, Rod's wife at the time, no longer wanted his body or thought he was sexy. Goosebumps is available to stream on Peacock. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy and mild for the season, lows in the low 20s. More clouds and warmer tomorrow, highs to the upper 30s and breezy. For the weekend, much colder temperatures and a bitter breeze. Mid-teens Saturday, maybe 0 Sunday. Current temp is 30.
No more mold, no more damage, no more slipping and hurting. Make your ordinary bathroom extraordinary for only $99 per month. New shower, new door, new tub, new wall, new anti-slip technology. BCI Bath and Shower is made in America for the highest quality. First 50 callers save $1,500 on a never clear glass treated door. BCI Bath and Shower. Interest-free financing options. 800-329-4115. 800-329-4115. 800-329-4115.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Here's what the WSJ had said after J6. This week has probably finished Donald Trump as a serious political figure. Boy, that hasn't aged well, has it?
No, not at all. The Wall Street Journal. So after what they just said 4 years ago, Maggie, they couldn't bring it upon themselves to say that guy who did that shouldn't be anywhere near the White House again. Nope, couldn't do it.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. John Mino and Jim Schmidt.
On Friday's show, again, update of this weekend's episode of New Wisco Weekend with Lisa Hale and Mark Houston from Bell and Sports Medicine.
There's a problem, feathers, iron, bargain buildings, weights and pulleys, feathers.
Jim from Appleton says Bob was the voice of summer in Wisconsin. Very well put, Jim. Andy from Watertown says more than 100 appearances on Carson starting in 1971. Had to gather 3,000 to get on the team. He had to gather 3,000 to get on the team. I think I'm missing something in the text there, Annie. The crowd loved him. He was deadpan. He leaves the set, and Carson says to Ed, did he really play baseball? That's great. Very funny. Thank you, Annie. Tom says in New Berlin, says, thanks, guys. Thank you, Tom. Love your texts. Keep them coming. All right, we're going to turn our attention to food. In Wisconsin, we love food. We love foodies. Many of us are foodies. And one guy capitalized on the whole deal and put it together and created a show called Wisconsin Foodie, and his name is Arthur Ursing. He is the creator and executive producer of the show, and he joins us now on Nightlight. Arthur, welcome back.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. You had, the last time you were here, I think your child had a birthday party or a costume party or something, and you were all dressed up for that, if I remember correctly.
Oh, you know what? It was like a school dance. I think it was a school dance.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
How
Man.
did that turn out 9 months later?
I think it turned out great for the boys. It's they're getting to that age, but right now it's it's like they're a wild pack, so it's fun. They're all good kids. Yeah, man.
Well, it's great to have you on the show, back on the show, I should say. You have this great show, Wisconsin Foodie, an Emmy-winning independent TV series dedicated, it says on your website, to discovering the stories behind the food we eat.
Yes, sir.
That's such a great angle to approach this. Tell us about Wisconsin Foodie for those who maybe haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the show was started back in 2008, if you can believe it or not. And It was started because, I had been working I went to film school in Vancouver, British Columbia, did a lot of traveling, and I spent my whole sort of youth trying to escape Wisconsin. I said, I got to get out of this place. I want to travel. I had that travel bug. And, there's a kind of a little dirty secret is I'm a dual citizen. I'm also a Canadian as well. So I decided I wanted to try to go to school in Canada and Vancouver for film, and did a lot of great stuff there. Graduated, worked in the industry for a little bit, and I was drawn back to Milwaukee after a bunch of travels. And I think weirdly enough, I think it was the sports teams that drew me back. Like I just found this this passion for Milwaukee Brewers baseball and the Bucks, and I don't know what it was, but it drew me back, and I came back to the great state of Wisconsin, and I wanted to get into the film industry. And at the time, there really was not a lot going on. People weren't posting videos on online on YouTube. It was, it was pretty archaic, and the industry was pretty limited at the time. And I had this really fantastic opportunity to work with a gentleman by the name of John Gillespie. He did a show called Gillespie's Waters and Woods. And he, his father was Earl Gillespie, a legendary broadcaster, with the Braves and many other sort of sports back in the day. So the premise of the show is he'd go fishing every single week. And there was a team of two. It was me and him. We'd go fishing. I'd film him fishing, and we'd go out every Monday and Tuesday. Came back, gave him the footage. He'd edit it and be on the on TV later that week. So just a really phenomenal sort of business guy, and I really learned a lot about local television from him. And I thought to myself, if there really isn't an industry for me, I've got to create this industry. And my big passions were food and film. And I figured, there's just so many stories in Wisconsin. And at the time, I didn't know how many stories were in Wisconsin. I believe that there was a lot of stories here with our sort of rich culinary food traditions. But boy, was I, blown away by, what's going on 17 years now of incredible food stories, some at this point, thinking about it, Pete, is like, we created this show maybe 17 years ago. There's kids in their 20s that probably grew up with this show. And we run into them that said, occasionally they'll say like, yeah, my parents used to watch this show and I grew up with it. And it really kind of inspired me to get in the kitchen or to be a farmer or to get into food. And that's just like, man, that alone right there is really all the credit I need is to hear that we've impacted people in that sort of way. But just blessed to be a part of this rich culinary sort of history now.
Well, you kind of, created, it's so, what you just said was very interesting, Arthur. Like, when I was younger, I never thought, that someone being filmed while they're fishing would be good TV. That's incredible. And as you've gotten older, do you realize that it's not necessarily the story you're telling, but how you tell it? As a storyteller, like, you found curiosities about food and have made them interesting. It's the same thing with fishing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How much of what you bring as a filmmaker has lent itself to your success telling these stories about food?
It is really a complete sort of, it's like a puzzle. You need so many things to go right in order, and especially in today's day and age where you find that attention span is so much lower than maybe it used to be. You need everything to kind of go right. And for me, it comes down to the characters, right? It comes down to the story and the characters. The filmmakers and the folks that I grew up with in Milwaukee, like people like Chris Smith and Barry Polterman, they really didn't emphasize technicality. They emphasized story. And that always stayed with me. The story is the utmost important part of what we're doing. And if you can get a great character, which there are plenty of great characters here in Wisconsin, I love the people that we find that are such big, dynamic, interesting personalities that have never been on camera, that nobody knows exist because they're getting up at 2 a.m. to make cheese every day. And maybe they're really well known in their small little town in Wisconsin, like Lafarge, but they're not known, to this bigger audience. And I think that was really our goal, is to make, with the popularity of food TV nationwide, celebrities are being made every day. We wanted to bring that back here and make that cheesemaker that's getting up at 2 a.m. every day to make this award-winning cheese that everybody loves so much. We wanted to make him the rock star. We wanted to make him the celebrity. And, and I can say that we've done that. I can say that the people that have been on Wisconsin Foodie at this point, are known. And I love that. I think that's the coolest thing in the world, that people know more about their food, now than they ever have.
It's pretty cool that you're telling stories and increasing awareness, but you're also doing something really good for communities. That's got to feel great as a filmmaker and as the creator of Wisconsin Foodie. Arthur Ursink is my guest. When does the new season start, Arthur? And what number are you on? Is it 16 or 17?
So we have a labeling system. It's 17 for us. We've kind of lost track, but that's where we're at. And, Pete, ironically, today was the day that all of these episodes were due to public television, Wisconsin Public Television. So,
oh boy.
I had people like Gary Denny, Tom Misch, the whole team at Wisconsin Public Television, you know,
I know those guys.
breathing down my back, waiting to get these episodes. And, you know,
Did
when
you
you're on
make
their
your
good
deadline?
side, it's all good. When you're on their bad side, it's like, oh my God, you know, so luckily we got it all in. So today was our day. We got everything into the station, and we'll be airing starting next Thursday at 7:30 on Wisconsin Public Television.
Fantastic. You mentioned Barry Polterman. He's been a guest on the show. Love Barry. Such a great community of filmmakers in Milwaukee or from Milwaukee. Tell me, Arthur, if you would, you say you tell stories behind the food. What are some of your favorite stories behind the food that you've discovered or that you've learned of over the last 17 years?
You know, that's always a hard one for it's always the last one that I worked on. And, you know, for me, I really love the editorial process, the editing process. I do all the editing. Right now I have a team of editors, but like I do like kind of the meat and potatoes storytelling parts. And, you know, we just finished up working on an episode with Marcus Landry, an ex NBA, an ex Wisconsin Badger, NBA player who has retired from, you know, pro basketball, and he started a farm. And on that farm, he is bringing kids from the inner city, from schools, to his farm and putting them to work, you know, just showing them how to do things at the farm, how to feed, you know, the chickens, how to even drive tractors. And it is just such an incredibly inspiring story, just selfless, right? You know, somebody that, you know, probably could have done a lot of things with their life. And, you know, the other really fascinating part of that is there's not a lot of Black farmers in Wisconsin. We have a huge, you know, industry, agricultural industry here, but not a lot of Black farmers. So for somebody like Marcus Landry to really do what he's doing and to inspire a new generation, the next generation, you know, there's one line in the show where he has like this kid, his name's Isaac. He's his right hand. The kid's got to be 12, and he knows how to do everything on the farm. You know, he you know, to the point where he's driving tractors around. And Mark, you know, like Luke asks him, we talk about, you know, there's a scene where we talk about, you know, what Lamborghinis are so cool, but you know, this tractor over here is worth just as much as a Lamborghini. So Luke asks Isaac, you know, hey Isaac, do you want a Lamborghini? And Isaac kind of shakes his head no. And then Luke's like, do you want a tractor? And then he just perks up and he has this big smile on his face and he just nods yes, you know, and that is just the coolest thing to me, man. It's just, you know, these stories are incredible, and the things happening behind the scenes here are just so wonderful. I fall in love with the characters and the stories, and for me, you know, it's so hard to give one of these at its up, right? You know, you want to make it so good for them. But like my favorite line, and it's so true, is art is never finished, it's only abandoned. And that's literally what we have to do. That's what Gary forces me to do at Wisconsin PBS is you got to be done with it, and you got to pass it off, and it could always be better, but you know, that's life. That's the life of an editor.
What's that like when you're, you know, every episode you shoot, I'm sure you have storyboards or whatever, or beats you want to hit, but you really don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Talk about that feeling, if you would, when you realize, like with the Lamborghini story you told, the tractor. How do you feel when you get something that you know is absolute gold?
Oh man, I'm just so thrilled at the cameraman where everybody is shooting, everybody got the shot, you know, we are there for that moment. But you know, I just, you know, it's incredible to, you know, when I sit down and I look at all this footage, you know, it's just like it's like Christmas. I just like piecing things together. And at first I'm like, there's no way any of this is going to work. Right. There's no way, like, because what we do, there are no storyboards. You know, I have like a basis of an idea for a story, but I try to, like, everybody is almost in the dark with my crew, with Luke, everybody. And like, I know that I've vetted the subject matter enough to know that it's going to be a really interesting and, you know, it's going to be a perfect sort of thing for Wisconsin Foodie. So we just put ourselves in these scenarios, totally unscripted. Everything is unscripted. Luke is unscripted. The camera guys are unscripted, and like, they hate me for it. Everybody, like the camera guys, like I lose them all the time because like they hate walking into scenes, not knowing what we're doing and where we're going. And we make it up on the fly. And that's really important for the sort of style of the show. It's very verite, very like documentary, sort of real, you know, and that's what we're after. And And, some of these shoots, we're there 2 days, sometimes 3 days. If we travel far, we'll spend 3 days with somebody, but sometimes we're only there for a day or 4 hours, at the least. And that all has to be distilled down to like 21 minutes, and,
right.
And that is such a challenge. I know there's a couple episodes that I've just worked on where I'm like, we've got so much incredible footage, and there's just not a place for all of it. And, and it's just, our brains at this point are on autopilot. I think, we just kind of, the story just comes out of us, and it tells itself.
Well, I hope you can keep it on autopilot for a few more seasons at least.
Man, fingers crossed.
My guest is Arthur Ursink. We'll have more with Arthur after a very short break. Craig Anthony Kennett checks in on the stream and says, I remember Bob Uecker as always having a great sense of humor, always bringing a smile. Remember David L. hypnotizing me and terrifying me with David Lynch. Hypnotizing me and terrifying me with Eraserhead. Truly unpredictable movie. Great text, Craig. Our question tonight is, what do you think of when you think of Bob Uecker? Very simple. 855-752-4842. We'll be right back with more with Wisconsin Foodies Arthur Ursink. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
And my stomach is sick, and it's all in my head, but she's touching his chest now. He takes off her dress now. Let me go.
Listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for the Maggie Dawn Show.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Native American voters prevailed in federal court against the state of North Dakota, protecting the ability to elect the candidate of their choice. January 13th, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear a redistricting case we covered back in May 2024, affirming a North Dakota federal appeals court decision. The appeals court had dismissed a state house district challenge by 2 non-native residents who claimed their rights were infringed. The case dates back to 2021 when the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara nations, also known as the MHA Nation, negotiated with the state to protect native voting power under the 1965 Voting Rights Act, Section 2. After an agreement, state GOP officials later shamefully reversed positions in 2022, embracing a new GOP tactic which argues such majority-minority districts are a violation of the Equal Protection Clause under the U.S. Constitution. The same argument has been made in Robinson versus Calais over Louisiana's now 2 majority-minority districts. The MHA Nation decision protects North Dakota State House District 4A and 3 other districts. Great news for Native voters. But the Louisiana case is expected to be heard in the High Court in early 2025, and the conservative justices seem to have made it their mission to dismantle the VRA. We have links to the history of the case at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
This message is sponsored by WisCaregiver.com. Now is the time to start a meaningful career as a caregiver. Make a real difference in people's lives. WisCaregiver.com gives you 2 great options for free. Train for the in-demand caregiver workforce as a CDCP, Certified Direct Care Professional, or become a CNA, Certified Nurse Aide. All training is free. Plus, you can earn a $500 bonus. Learn more. Visit WisCaregiver.com.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay.
Some of these texts are great. I can't wait to read these. Hey, great to have you with me, folks. However you're joining us tonight, it's great to have you, whether it's over the stream, old-fashioned radio, gather the family around the big radio in the living room and tune into Nightlight. It's great to have you. Give us a like or a follow if you're close to your social media platform of choice. Arthur Ursink is my guest right now. He has had a tremendous run with Wisconsin Foodie. I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, it drops next week on PBS. Is that right, Arthur? PBS Wisconsin and Milwaukee PBS?
Yes, sir. Yes, 7:30 is 7:30 is the date. We got a great episode with Three Brothers Egg Farm, a young family that's producing some of the best eggs in all of Wisconsin. And then we follow those eggs to a place called Uncle Wolfie's Breakfast Tavern in Milwaukee. Very cool show, very timely. The egg talk has been sort of buzzing lately with egg prices. So
right.
definitely tune into that one.
That's great. So check that out. Hey, Arthur, before we get back into food, did you ever meet Bob Euchre? Do you have a great Euchre memory or moment you can share?
I mean, as you were talking, as I was listening to a lot of your texts, and what a sad day. I think David Lynch and Bob Euchre are two Bob Euchre being who he was to Wisconsin was a very special person in my life, and David Lynch was one of the more influential sort of directors, filmmakers that I grew up with, that I admired, that I watched. I think I've watched everything of Twin Peaks a million times. Just love his films, and it's such a sad day for both of those, those legends to go out together. But Bob Euchre. So one of my first jobs when I got back to Wisconsin from Vancouver, is I got a job working at the Brewers. I worked in the scoreboard department, so I did a lot of odds and ends, various jobs. I was like a camera guy in the audience. I was an audio guy, so I would put microphones on all the guests before the game that were speaking. I would, I did some of the videos that would go up on the scoreboard. So I did all these things, and it was just nice. I was shocked that I got a paycheck because I love the Brewers so much that I'm just I was just, I'm doing what I love. Right. And that's been my, that's what I do. I do things not for the money, but because I love them. And that's just unfortunately been my life. I got to figure out a way to make money though, Pete. That's
not a good negotiating tactic, but it is a good way to find happiness.
No, but with Bob Euchre, so I had this, I had a couple of instances where, I met Bob Euchre because John Gillespie was really good friends with him. They'd go fishing all the time. And so I'd see whenever I'd leave, there'd be times where I'd leave in the elevator with Bob Euchre, and we'd have a good chat about fishing or John and the good old days. But I remember there was this one day where I was setting up microphones on the field pregame, and there was this really fantastic producer, Alita Mercer. She would be on the field. We just kind of sit there and chat. I'd set up the microphones pregame, and I'd just sit on the field until the whole pregame thing was over. I'd collect the microphones and I'd disappear. One time, Alita's standing there, and she gets a phone call, and she's chatting with somebody, and then she hands me the phone, and I said, "Who could this be?" So I'm talking, and this real deep voice was, "Get away from my woman." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Get away from my woman." And Alita looks at me, and then she looks up, and it's Bob Euchre looking down on me, just tell me to get away from. It was the funniest thing. He is such a joker, and he was just such a treasure. I think I'm just so sad that he never got to see the Brewers win a World Series, and that's the biggest tragedy in all of this. So.
Wow, that is a great story. What a great memory to have. Well, jumping back into food, Arthur, let me ask you this. How do you think Wisconsin compares to other states when it comes to access to gourmet food? I know Milwaukee is considered like a big restaurant town now.
Yeah.
But when it comes to access to great or gourmet food and access to healthy or whole foods.
Yeah. So I would say this, when you look at, you start off by saying, the fine dining, or you kind of talking about these great restaurants, which Milwaukee has so many, Madison has a lot. I feel like they're always sort of competing. There's so much good food in both these cities. You're starting to see small towns start to pop up. I want to say the reason is because the food being produced in Wisconsin is literally the best food in the world, or at least in the United States, by far. We are the number one producer of so many agricultural products. And it's not just the number one producer, but we have such institutional knowledge and craftsmanship here. Cheese alone, when you go to some of these cheese competitions, you see Wisconsin winning half the awards. And I think there's been a real shift over my time. I remember when the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board, or the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin, huge partners of ours, and that's it's a slam dunk for us, because we want to promote dairy and cheese. Right. So It's an easy one. We're on the rooftop screaming about it. But at the beginning of our partnership, they weren't necessarily interested in the idea of promoting artisanal cheese. And over our time, over these 17 years, that philosophy has shifted greatly. We're all promoting, these smaller, cheese makers, and not only the smaller cheese makers, I should say, there's big cheese makers like the Sartoris that are just doing such an incredible job. So, but I think what's valuable to understand is we are producing, because of our agriculture here and our institutional knowledge, some of the best food in the world. So it's pretty easy. When you have a restaurant and you're dedicated to sourcing locally, I don't care where you're located, you are going to be producing some of the best food, because the best food is the freshest food that's made within 60 miles of where you're at. And you can't go wrong when you're eating that kind of food. I mean,
that is so impressive. I did not prepare you. I did not tell you I was going to ask that question, and you crushed it. That was outstanding. Hey, can you give us a few more minutes on the other side of the news? I have a couple more questions for you.
Man,
All right,
it.
fantastic. Wisconsin Foodies, Arthur Ersink is here. He's going to be with us for a few more minutes after Civic Media's news team brings you their award-winning news reports. It's Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Last night, dressed up like Elvis. Why am I wearing your class ring? Don't call your mother, 'cause now we're partners in crime. Don't be a baby, remember what you told me.
Swamico, 97.9 WGBW. Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
We have a very big, important meeting. So coming up on the show, a specially curated edition of Matt Nair on Air. We'll be back with you live on Monday. Don't miss it.
Matt Nair on Air. Weekday mornings at 10. Mino and the Mayor.
Landon Jones, his commercial is a semifinalist for Doritos and could air during the Super Bowl.
I was sitting on the couch, I was eating some Doritos, I just had one in my hand, I was looking at it. Well, what if my hand got bigger? And then I was like, okay, well, what would happen if I ate it? Okay, the head would get bigger. And then, I kind of went down the rabbit hole.
I wonder if it would work there.
Mino and the Mayor, weekday mornings 6 till 9 on WGBW and WISS and the Civic Media app. This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us. This is 97.9 WGBW Denmark, Green Bay's real news and great conversation, a Civic Media radio station.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. Federal authorities are talking about the November arrest of Alexander Justin White, who was busted trying to hop a flight from North Carolina to Morocco to join Islamic State, say authorities. Even offered money toward building an ISIS training camp in Syria. Michael F. Easley is U.S. Attorney for North Carolina.
When White was asked if he was okay killing members of the military or U.S. citizens, the complaint alleges that he stated, if it was a family member, I would still fight back with them.
Investigators allege White purchased firearms, 2 semi-automatic rifles, and a pistol. A federal judge in Amarillo ruled that Idaho, Texas, and Missouri can proceed with their effort to roll back federal rules and make it harder for people to access the pregnancy-ending drug mifepristone. Israel's cabinet delayed a vote on the Gaza ceasefire hostage release deal. Prime Minister Netanyahu blamed a last-minute dispute with Hamas. This is ABC News.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Draft City Music Fest is a 2-day music event in downtown Green Bay during Draft Week. Brian Johnson, president of On Broadway Incorporated.
We know the stadium area will be activated and lively. We want folks to be able to experience the other parts of Green Bay, and sometimes you have to provide a carrot to get them to go into parts of your community that they wouldn't organically travel to. And we think our downtown is a very special place, and when visitors come here, really leave them walking away with a memorable experience where they can say, hey, I visited Green Bay. It was a really great experience. I can't wait to go back.
The first of the events is the Draft Kickoff, Wednesday, April 23rd from 4 until 11 p.m. with nationally known musical guests, food, beverages, activities, and a fireworks display. The second of the events is the 8th Round Downtown, which will be Saturday, April 26th from 5 till 11, with almost a half dozen musical acts, including a national headliner, food, beverages, and more. Performers will be announced at a later date. A law was passed in an effort to boost reading achievement for students in Wisconsin. However, funding has never been released for it. With more, here's Civic Media's Jimmy Kuska.
Wisconsin's new reading program under Act 20 could be on its way towards being an unfunded mandate by the state legislature. $50 million is held up in the Joint Finance Committee over a disagreement between Republicans in the legislature and Governor Tony Evers on how the money should be spent. The already approved funding was tabbed for materials and training for staff at schools to implement phonics-based literacy for elementary school students. If the money isn't released by June 30th, the funds go back into the state surplus.
Without legislative funding, the school districts will have to pay for materials and training on their own. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Packers GM on Jordan Love. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Brian Gutekunst held his end-of-season press conference, saying wide receiver Christian Watson has not had surgery yet for his torn ACL. The Packers GM asked if Jordan Love took a step back this year at quarterback.
Obviously, he went through some things this year, battled through some injuries that he hadn't done that before. Came out the other side of it, and was really proud of him how he went through that. And he's leading our team exactly how we want him to do it. So I'm excited about it.
And baseball, remembering Bob Uecker, born in Milwaukee, served in the military, played catcher in the big leagues before calling Brewers games for 53 years. Uecker at his induction into baseball's Hall of Fame.
I signed a very modest $3,000 bonus with the Braves in Milwaukee, which I'm sure a lot of you know. And my old man didn't have that kind of money to put out. But the Braves took it.
Bob Uecker had suffered from lung cancer the past 2 years. He was 90 years old. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News. Your news in depth. Find it in the news section at WGBW.FM.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy and mild for the season, lows in the low 20s. More clouds and warmer tomorrow, highs to the upper 30s and breezy. For the weekend, much colder temperatures and a bitter breeze. Mid-teens Saturday, maybe 0 Sunday. It's 28 degrees right now.
The Dom Salvia Show.
Brad Schimmel, a J6 sympathizer, and he wants to be your next Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice. When he was Attorney General of Wisconsin, he spent thousands of dollars on memorial coins.
I would have been fired
that stood
if I'd
for
done that.
kicking ass every day. Hey, if you got to get a coin that says it, you're probably not
With
doing
your
it.
face on it.
The Dom Salvia Show. Weekdays from 4 till 6 on the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey, everybody. Our friend Matt Rothschild will be in the guest hosting chair next time, along with Tourism Secretary Ann Sayers, Wisconsin's Poet Laureate, and Brittany Merlot, talking.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who once planted evidence so he could make a citizen's arrest, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Nite Lite here on a Thursday, the Christmas Eve day of the week. Is that how I said that, Conrad?
The Christmas Eve of weekdays.
Of weekdays, yes. That's very well done. He's not the best color commentator in the business for nothing, folks. That's my little Bob Uecker line, if you were my sidekick in the booth. Coming up at 7:35 to talk about a cultural movement in Northeast Wisconsin, Wendy Dezurk and Trig Rude will join me here on Nite Lite. And we have a top secret, special secret undercover guest coming up in just a few minutes. His name is John Egan. And he is a comedian, and he hosts another Brewers podcast. We'll talk to John about Bob Uecker. Right now, we have just a few more minutes with our friend Arthur Ersank, who is the creator of Wisconsin Foodie. The new season, its 17th, drops next week on PBS Wisconsin. So that's exciting. Arthur, thanks again for your time tonight. Great to connect with you again, as always. Do you eat healthy, or do you ever have moments where you're sucking down Mountain Dew and eating Red Dye 40 and Doritos?
There's limits, right? So, I think all in moderation. I'm not a big soda drinker. So I've got that going for me. I've got a sweet tooth. Any gummy bear is just like my Achilles heel, is my weakness. And, the other thing is, so my son plays just every youth sport you could imagine. So literally when I'm not doing anything with Wisconsin Foodie, like when we jump off this call, I'm going to hockey practice. I spent the last weekend in Chippewa Falls. So while I've learned my lessons, I will collect, I'll bring a bunch of good snacks with me. At the same time, I find myself at Culver's,
right,
random spots, and whatever team we're on, everybody kind of knows, I'm the guy that knows where to go for food. So luckily enough, they give me the responsibility to seek out the good food that'll host 15 parents and 12 kids. And that's not always easy, but that's my skill. That's my special skill.
Man, that is a lot of pressure. And if it's youth sports, you're going somewhere almost every weekend, probably.
Yeah,
so
man. It's summer and winter.
Right.
The best is I try to coordinate Wisconsin Foodie shoots and sporting events. So if I'm up in Minocqua for a baseball tournament, I might spend the next couple days there with the kids, and we'll go do a supper club or something, and I'll have they can be in the background eating steaks.
That's great. So the last time you were on the show, and when we talked in the past, we talked about healthy game day or Super Bowl snacks. Do you have anything you could recommend where it's kind of healthy, but you don't sacrifice too much taste?
Were we did this last year now at the same time? Wow, that a year goes by fast, Pete. Oh my God, I felt like it was a couple weeks ago. But I would, so I get, and I may have given you this same exact answer last time, maybe not.
That's okay.
I am during the holidays, I'm the charcuterie board guy. I get so excited, and it's just not even the holidays. Let's say Super Bowl, because that's coming up.
Yeah.
When I come over, I'm bringing my 5 favorite cheeses. I'm bringing a couple salamis. I'm bringing a couple pickles and everything local, right? So
nice.
That's my jam. And I'm not going to say I don't like chips. I'm a junk food, snack food. Man, I've got a weakness for that kind of stuff, especially the Japanese snacks. I'm it's just that stuff's crazy to me, but I would say that, if you can support local, you're buying local, you buy a local cheese. Not only are you buying local cheese, but literally it's going to be if let's say Marieke Gouda, you go buy a piece of Marieke Gouda cheese, you bring it over to your friend's house. Not only are you going to wow them with the quality and the taste of that cheese, but you're also supporting somebody in your own community, and you're buying the best of the best. So I find it's really a valuable experience for me to go out. And it's a form of love for me, for the family or my friends, for me to go out and to collect these beautiful products and bring them over and share them with friends. And the beauty, when I do that too, I get to tell the stories of the people that I know that made these products and how they were made. And I think there's something so valuable to wrap it all around, Pete. It's all about the story, right? Once you know the story behind the food you eat, there's no going back. Right? There's no going back. So I think it's a really valuable experience to understand where your food comes from, and watch what you eat. That's my slogan this year is watch what you eat, because it makes all the difference in the world when you know the people and how the people making it and how it's being made and how you support them by just buying their product.
That is very well said. And you're right. It doesn't have to be ultra healthy, but if it's a whole food or something local or where it comes from, that's just a huge win. Arthur, thank you so much. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I've heard from people all around the state how hard you work, and your success is so well-deserved, my friend. Keep up the great work, and thank you as always.
You
for
too,
your time.
man. Your show is just blowing up, and I'm so proud of what you've created here. It's not easy to create something, and you've done it. You've done a hell of a job, and I love seeing your graphics pop up all the time of your different guests. So I'm just honored to be a part of it. So thank you for having me back. Maybe we'll see you next year for the next Super Bowl.
I hope we talk before that, because my mouth is watering after thinking about all this food now. So we'll
anytime we'll get you out on one of these shoots with us. We'll have you be a guest. How about that? I'm gonna figure out how to get you as a guest on one of our shoots.
Oh, I'm there, man. You just name it. I'll be there. Thank you so much, buddy. Have a great night, and good luck with the 17th season. That's really
I love
cool.
it. Thank you so much. Have fun.
All
Hey,
right.
visit. One more shout out. Go to YouTube and subscribe to YouTube. That's where all of the shows go That's where everything's on. I promote people to go to YouTube because it's an easier place to find new stuff, old stuff. Hit that subscribe button, and that's the future of Wisconsin Foodies. So
there
thanks,
you go.
Really appreciate it, man.
Anytime, buddy. Thank you again, Arthur. And yeah, check out Wisconsin Foodie on YouTube, you guys. It's such a great show. If you haven't seen it, to me, it's like makes you want to eat healthier. And the story behind the food is such a great angle to come at this. It's just a brilliant idea, and I'm not surprised he's had as much success with the show that he has. So great stuff, and thank you again, Arthur. So do we have John? Is he on the phone? Oh, fantastic. All right. This is our top secret surprise guest, folks, who I've been naming all night. John Egan. He is a very funny Northeast Wisconsin-based comedian, and he also hosts another Brewers podcast, and he's here joining us now on Nightlight again. Hey, John.
Pete, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm fine. I'm in the middle of Major League.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know what kind of mood you'd be in. I know what a huge Brewers fan you are, and even people who aren't Brewers fans love Bob Uecker. I mean, the guy is that's another stratosphere of not worship but fandom, right? When you have fans from everywhere, even if you don't follow the team he announces.
Yes, it was as they say, Mr. Baseball, so everyone loves him. Even Alex Rodriguez, who on X posted that Bob Uecker, a classic Cleveland legend, which is still up. He has not deleted it yet, which is hilarious.
Like he just thinks that Major League is real or what? What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's where he did all his work. And so no one decided to let him know or text him and update that tweet.
That's great. He just thought there was a camera crew that captured him in action doing what he does for the Cleveland. Were they the Indians in the movie? Was that their team name?
They were, yeah.
Okay.
They were the Indians.
Wow, that had to be a huge get. Just getting MLB to say, okay, you can use one of our actual teams. You don't have to call them like the Wildcats or something.
Yeah, and they filmed a lot in Milwaukee and have a lot of Chicago actors and improvers in that movie. So, yeah, it was a big thing.
My buddy Bill Leff, who has been on this show a few times and is the host of Tune In With Me on MeTV, was one of the fans in the crowd with other Chicago Second City actors, and my friend Skip Paris was next to Uecker in the booth. He was the color commentator guy who Uecker kind of made fun of.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a really good comic,
cool.
and I'm going to try to get Skip on the show next week. I can't believe I didn't think of that earlier, but he'll be a great guest. And he spoke glowingly about Bob Uecker, like he truly loved his experience. Do you have any Uecker stories, John, or do you just want to tell us what you loved about him or what made him so great? You're one of the biggest Brewer fans I know, even though we just met.
Yeah, so so my minor interaction with Bob is one of my mom's cousins actually married one of his kids.
Wow.
Originally. So I have a very distinct memory of going to the wedding of and then my entire family, and especially my uncle, who basically the job was to try to stalk him and then, because everyone still had the cameras ready to develop the film and take pictures, hoping that he's in the background somewhere so that they have historical evidence of being at the same wedding as Bob Uecker. So
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, so there's just random pictures of him in the background talking to people with my uncle smiling, being like, "I'm kind of here in the picture."
Was he doing the chicken dance in any of the pictures?
Unfortunately not. No. It's more I think it's more the mingling type thing. I'm sure there would have been a little more attention if he did that. But for me, it was my whole life. I grew up with him, so listening to Brewers all the time. I even just posted this that I would even plan my gigs or driving to and from my gigs, hoping that around Brewer games so I could listen to them.
Wow,
it was just that one of those things. It was it was therapy almost, basically.
There have been some great announcers, John, and I don't follow baseball as much as I used to, but I loved Vin Scully. I always felt like his voice just absolutely matched the baseball picture. It was a perfect union. Harry Carey could be funny, kind of obnoxious. Uecker, to me, was so unique because he played the game, but also did play-by-play. What do you think made him so unique and sets him apart?
Well, I think just because he could switch it on and off. So, he was always the guy who goofed around and had the story. It's about, Bratz. I know he did Usingers and all those promos in Miller Lite, but he was a really good commentator when it came down to it. So, he would always be joking around. He was always known for using that edit and cough button to say the craziest stuff, but also he could do the play-by-play. So, I mean, every home run call, if you just, YouTube it, search it online right now, it's perfect. And it was just great what he could do. And he just knew he was so self-deprecating. And it's one of those things that you forget in life, especially nowadays with social media and outrage and politics, that like when he started out and what he always was, it was just be funny. Like, don't let anything else happen. Just do your job and be funny and entertaining, and the rest will work out. And it's just like, just be good. Like, just make people laugh is key.
And that's probably a pretty different approach than a lot of guys who went to broadcasting school have, right? I mean, that's really unique.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, he just learned that and he got thrown in the booth and just started doing it. And man, it was just, because I actually just finished his book, Catcher in the Rye, spelled W-R-Y, a few months ago. So that was, it was just very cool to just, to see everything that happened with him and how involved with him. And I forgot he was involved with like the NFL and did segments for them and was on Sunday Night Baseball, and he was just everywhere.
Hey, John, can you give us another minute or two on the other side of a very quick break here?
Oh, sure.
All right, fantastic. John Egan is here. Another Brewers podcast. Check it out. We'll be right back. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
No surprise to me with another guy. Here comes my baby. Here she comes now.
The talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. In the first week of the new session of the Wisconsin State Legislature, Republicans fast-tracked a measure that would put a question on the ballot in the upcoming spring election that would enshrine voter ID in the state constitution. Two things on this. First, it is telling that Republicans made this their very first order of business. Senate Democratic leader Dianne Hesselbein responded to this saying it's not cost of living or health care or gun violence that Republicans wanted to focus on, but a constitutional amendment. Telling, isn't it? But that leads to the second piece. Republicans are clearly doing this for politically motivated reasons. By having this on the spring election ballot, they're betting it will make it more likely that people who showed up to vote for Donald Trump in November will be heading to the polls to help elect right-wing candidate Brad Schimmel to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. That election is on April 1st, so buckle up.
Find all of Dan's work at the Recombobulation area and on our website at civicmedia.us.
Hey there, it's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute. On my YouTube channel, I recently talked to Amanda Clayman, a financial therapist and an all-around excellent person. We talked about how to reduce money anxiety, and her advice was really helpful. She said, unless we have a time to do money, we don't have a time to not do money. Meaning, if we set aside some time to think about and manage our money, it lets our brain stop worrying about money all the time. For example, I have a monthly money meeting with myself, which lowers my money anxiety and helps keep me on top of my finances. If you don't already, set and keep that money meeting with yourself. It'll help your wallet and your peace of mind. Remember what Amanda said, unless you have a time to do money, you don't have a time to not do money. For more everyday money tips, check.
Bridget from the 818 says, rest in peace, Bob Uecker. Great job in Major League. And that happens to be the movie that our guest currently is watching. And he took time out. He put it on pause long enough to join us here on Nightlight just for a few minutes to share his memories of Bob Uecker. So John Egan joins us. Check out his podcast, Another Brewers Podcast. Am I getting that right, John? Where can people find that?
Yeah. Just anywhere, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find it on there. And it should, it starts with A, so another, so it should be okay and pretty easy to find once you start typing it.
Right, perfect. Where do you rank Bob in the, not to say you could say who the best of all time was, but in terms of uniqueness, there really wasn't anybody like him, was there?
Oh, no, for sure not. I mean, it was just one of those guys where he transcended that game where, to become friends with Johnny Carson, to do WrestleMania, to do all that stuff where, no other random commentator is doing that. Like, you will not see the current Brewers announcers. I mean, well, Brian Anderson does, NBA and NCAA. He's really great, but no one's doing movies or, those random things. Maybe Dan Patrick with doing some Adam Sandler movies now and then. But a lot of guys, just aren't doing that well-rounded, comedy chops thing.
Yeah, and he was the sitcom he was on too. Was it Mr. Belvedere? I mean,
yes,
the guy acted too. He wasn't, it's not like he was really playing himself. He's just had such a unique career. I'm just kind of in awe of the guy, and I wish I had had the opportunity to meet him. So rest in peace, Bob Uecker. John, thanks so much for your time tonight. Check out Another Brewers podcast. John is the host. He does a great job, and he's a very talented comedian. You got any dates coming up, John, you can share with us?
I think one with you in February. It should be the big one, right? Is that what you meant? Is that what you wanted me to do?
Well, that's kind of a charity event, and you're going to do great. That's going to be a fun night. February 1st, it'll be you and Jessica Phillips and Johnny Beaner, and I'll open the show. It's going to be a really fun night up there in Marinette, Wisconsin. But if you have anything else you want to promote, now's the time, buddy.
Brewers Raptor out on X and TikTok and most of the places. Otherwise, next weekend I'm in Negaunee, Michigan Friday and Sheboygan on Saturday. So
fantastic.
That's where I'll be.
What about a website, or do you prefer socials if people want to follow you?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, John Egan Stuff has it all. I have link trees on my socials as well, which will bring you to anything you need.
Awesome. Buddy, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of Major League. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Pete. Everyone.
You got it. All right, that's John Egan talking Bob Uecker. So we got some text we got to get through. Were you able to find that commercial, Conrad?
Yes.
Is it ready to go?
Yes.
Oh, let's hear. Okay, this is a Miller Lite commercial Bob Uecker did. This was really my first. I said I read a book with Bob Uecker stuff in it. And I thought the guy was really funny. I was probably 10. So I knew who he was, but I think this commercial is the first time I ever saw him actually performing on camera. And he wasn't being an announcer. He was just being Bob Uecker and playing Bob Uecker to a T.
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it, crack! I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy. He missed the tag. He missed the tag.
So, I don't know if you guys remember the last shot of that commercial. He is literally like in the nosebleeds and nobody is around him. So he just played that great character too of not getting. He's like the Rodney Dangerfield, at least in that ad. It was very funny. And we've got some great texts. If you want to get in on the Uecker stories, you can do that. Our question of the night is, what is your what do we say, Conrad? I don't have it. What comes to mind when you think of Bob Uecker? Share your story, one you've heard, one you've actually experienced, if you met him. That's what we're talking about tonight. David Lynch also passed away, a Wisconsinite for a while anyway. Lived outside of Madison. You can share your favorite David Lynch movie as well. We just we didn't really put any David Lynch stuff together. I heard about that literally right before I went on the air. But Bob Uecker, the texts are coming in. Annie from the 920, she's in Watertown, says, some sports guy ran into the elderly Uecker at the urinal. Apparently Uecker having some difficulty, so this guy asked if he could help. Uecker, yeah, sure. You want to hold it for me? That's pretty ornery. I could see Uecker saying that. That's very funny. Thank you for the text, Annie. Annie could have made that up, too. If you want to make up a story about Bob Uecker, I'll even read that as long as it's respectful and not slanderous. And anyway, Jameson from Pennsylvania, that's the 814. He says, I know most people will say Major League is talking Bob movies, but his small guest role in Futurama still makes me happy. Wow, I didn't know he was on that show. That's a great text. Thank you, Jameson. We have to. So our buddy Mike Rowe worked with Bob Uecker at some point because Mike was one of the executive producers of Futurama. That's a great. I'll have to look for that. Maybe we can find that for tomorrow, Conrad. You got enough room there to take a memo?
It's the book's getting big.
You know, you're taking.
But it's also
They're pretty small Post-its. I think you could fit that memo on one Post-it. One memo per Post-it. Mark from Prairie du Sac says, I watch Wisconsin Foodie when I can, looking for, how do you pronounce this word? Nduja. Nuja? Conrad's no help on that one. Neither one of us know. Nuja to make that beef burgundy. Oh, that's it. I'm telling you, folks, if you have not seen Wisconsin Foodie, check it out. Thank you, Mark from Prairie du Sac. We'll save Steady Eddie's text for after the break. No, we got time for Steady Eddie, right? Conrad, how we doing? We okay on time? All right. Steady Eddie says, Pete, I listened to Bob Uecker on the radio broadcasting Brewers games for half a century. Mr. Baseball would entertain me and make me laugh. Never met the man, but he's an old friend. Gonna miss you, Uke. Steady Eddie. Very straightforward. See, Eddie knows when to be funny and when to just be sweet. And that was a great text. Thank you, Eddie. And I totally agree. Chris from Janesville says, multiple brothers met him a while back. My brother got his autograph, then looked at Bob and said, just a bit outside. Bob responded with a questionable look, and my brother, who is only 42 at the time, says, thanks for using my saying. He just looked at my brother and thanked him. That sounds so awkward. I love that. Kate from the 715 says, never heard of him. That's great. Thank you, Kate. Thank you for your honesty. Tom from New Berlin says, no streaming, Mr. Belvedere. Really? Interesting. Sometimes that happens. I bet it'll show up somewhere, though, Tom. Annie from Watertown says, Pete and Arthur run around the state for these popcorn entrepreneurs. Yes, Annie. Annie always says great text. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight. We'll be back to talk about a cultural movement in my hometown with two of my homies. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Jackie, oh, you set the world on fire. You came and gifted us.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. It's a sad day for baseball, for the Brewers, and for all of Wisconsin. Bob Uecker, Baseball Hall of Famer and voice of the Brewers for many, many years, passed away today. He was 90 years old. A bird that looks an awful lot like Hedwig of Harry Potter fame migrates here every winter, and lately has been sighted more frequently. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot tells us more.
Over 80 snowy owls have been observed in Wisconsin this year, which is more than in the past 2 winters combined. Many of them are immature birds that dispersed from Arctic Canada after hatching last summer. These young owls are less skilled, less wary, and more likely to show up in unexpected places, like residential neighborhoods, urban open spaces, and even busy roadsides. While they're exciting to see, try to help these beautiful birds survive. Never approach them too closely. You're too close if the bird responds to your presence in any way, like frequently looking at you, sitting erect with eyes open in your direction, or flying from its perch. And turn off your car engine. Use a quiet voice and do not play audio. And no picture is worth jeopardizing the well-being of these majestic birds. Let's all do our part to ensure their safe return to the Arctic this spring.
The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources is asking residents to cut back on their salt use during the winter months to help protect the state's waterways. Salt is commonly used to make roads and walkways safer during the winter, but DNR data found that chloride levels in the state's rivers have risen dramatically over the last 20 years. Officials are recommending residents use less salt by shoveling their walkways before ice storms and switching to a more effective ice melter than salt when the temperatures dip below 15 degrees. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Stand-up comic Bill Burr shared opinions on the catastrophic LA fires during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, like only Bill Burr can. After saying he was tired of people on the internet sitting at home in their underwear suddenly becoming fire experts, Burr attacked insurance companies, saying they will keep the people's premiums and give themselves bonuses, insinuating that they are the actual looters. John Cena's likability is off the charts, with John Cena fans. The sometime actor, sometime wrestler will host a new talk series. Variety reports that Cena will host a 4-episode talker called What Drives You and will interview guests like Logan Paul, Jelly Roll, and Travis Barker and their favorite cars. This is a really original idea that was even more original when Jerry Seinfeld came up with it. What Drives You will air January 21st on the Roku channel. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy and mild for the season, lows in the low 20s. More clouds and warmer tomorrow, highs to the upper 30s and breezy. For the weekend, much colder temperatures and a bitter breeze. Mid-teens Saturday, maybe 0 Sunday. It's 28 degrees right now.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Did you know that 1 in 4 people seeking treatment for ED are under 40? HIMS can help. Get started at hims.com/joy. Through hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy.
Hi, I'm Michael Friedman, CEO of Simple Life Hospitality. Let us take the hassle out of vacation rental property management. We'll maximize your earnings and handle every detail from cleaning to maintenance and repairs. For guests, enjoy a stay that feels like home with hand-selected properties, personal touches like local recommendations, and extras like concierge service that will make your trip unforgettable. Whether you're a homeowner or a traveler, experience the Simple Life. Visit simpleliferentals.com.
Hey folks, Jimmy K here from Max Inc. Radio. Join me this weekend as I welcome Isaiah and the New People. Plus Terry chats with jazz musician Janet Plant. It's Max Inc. Saturday and Sunday, 6 to
on the fun of our question of the night. What comes to mind when you think of Bob Uecker? We've had some really outstanding texts tonight, including a great story from Arthur Ursink from Wisconsin Foodie and John Egan as well, host of Another Brewers podcast. We will read your texts on the radio if you send them in at 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. You can text us on the stream as well or on the app. There are a lot of ways to get a hold of us here at Nightlight. The important thing is just that you get a hold of us in the most appropriate way possible. All right, we are going to turn our attention to something that is very important and near and dear to my heart. I feel like, we talk about movies and TV and comedy and music on this show on a nightly basis. And I feel like Wisconsin has some great artists and great culture for the most part. Here in Northeast Wisconsin, especially in the Marinette area, specifically in the Marinette area, is what we will be talking about tonight. There's a group called the Association for Community and Culture. They were formed in an effort to help save a beloved theater space and repurpose other facilities on what was the former UW Marinette campus, which became the UW Green Bay Marinette campus. Here now to discuss these efforts are two of my homies from the Marinette area, Wendy DeZurek and Trig Rude. Welcome, you guys.
Hello.
Great to have you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you for including us.
Oh, you're very welcome. I feel like this stuff is really important. We talk about film incentives on the show from time to time that people are trying to enact in the state. And I feel like those are great, but I feel like from the ground floor, culture and the arts has to be important. And we have to build a culture in Wisconsin. You guys are doing that in Wisconsin, in Marinette right now. And full disclosure, my mom, Amy Schwaba, is involved in this endeavor. And you guys are working closely with her. And that's how I became aware of it. But I really applaud your efforts. So before we get into the goals of the association or the ACC, let's discuss where things are at with this beautiful campus that sits right near the water in beautiful Marinette, Wisconsin. Where are things at with the property?
Trigby, do you want to take that?
Sure. Currently,
University still has a lease with Marinette County for what we would consider the main campus facility, the main building, the library, and the art center, the theater. The university already got out of the lease for the pool and gym. So that's now Marinette County's property with the pool association leasing that from the county. So the theater is still being used. The main campus building and the library have been scuttled and they're empty buildings. So that's where we're at.
It's so sad, and I think that's why, but hopefully some good can come of this. You guys in the ACC, the Association for Community and Culture, what is your goal with the buildings, and what are you guys trying to accomplish in regard to the county board, and what are you trying to establish in that setting?
I guess our goal is to maintain some level of culture in our community. The outcome, we don't know exactly because we are trying to work through a grassroots effort by having friends join the association so that we can come up with the collective wisdom of the group to determine what is the best direction. Now, not everything will be viable only because the county, we learned last night, and I think this is anybody in the Marinette area knows this, the county does have some funding issues like every probably state entity. And so they have to make decisions, as the county administrator told us last night, between miles and miles of road or spending money on the campus. So we have to come up with an idea that will be viable and probably sustain itself versus requesting funds from the county.
So what suggestions, Wendy and Trig? Trig, do you prefer Trig or Trigvy?
Trig's fine.
Okay. What kind of suggestions have you gotten so far, and what have really sparked interest with you guys as the leaders of this committee?
I think last night, and I'm speaking only because I collated all the suggestions that came in, and there were probably 40 or 50 suggestions. And they when I looked at them, you could clump them together by different areas of interest or areas of focus. So, and Trig, jump in if I miss any, but there are a lot of ideas around creating some type of an educational environment out there, working something with research. So what can we do with research? That came up. Let me think of what else was on that list. A lot of arts and culture ideas, and then a lot of ideas around like incubating businesses, small businesses, different businesses, and then getting local nonprofits to relocate to that facility. So those were like the big ideas that came out of last night's meeting.
Does the fact, you guys, that there's this great theater, this great space, the Herb Williams Theater, I thought at one point that was profitable, and I only know this because my daughter's been part of Theater on the Bay productions for years, but that makes money. Is that the goal? Is just to get, like you said, is to sustain itself, and how do you play on that? Like, you've got this theater that makes money. Do you do more productions? Do you find, I know one of the options was the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration potentially setting up an office there. Can it be different things like that on the campus?
I think it has to be. There has to be more than one use, unless you find somebody who's got a lot of money that needs a lot of space. I think it almost has to be a combination of things. Again, we're just kind of in the early stages of this and getting folks' ideas, but
right.
To try to occupy that whole space by one entity, I think is going to be pretty tough. Currently I'll say safe with the theater building. That UW says they're going to stay involved in that, and so it's being used currently, and it's actually, there's a lot of stuff going on there right now. I follow along, and there's more stuff happening at that theater building right now than there has been for a lot of years.
And it's ultimately up to the county board, correct, in Marinette, like what they decide to do. are you guys trying to get them on your side once you have your ideas? What's the procedure moving forward here?
Yes, we are trying to work with the county board to help them understand that there are a group of committed people out there that can assist them with coming up with that idea. And we were aware of this, but we learned some more details last night from the county administrator. There is a grant opportunity for the campuses that are closing. And I believe that the Marinette campus has an opportunity for up to a $2 million grant that can be utilized to incubate or support the idea. So that would be something that we would like to offer support with. What viable opportunities can we present to the county that they could potentially use to write for that grant?
My guests are Wendy DeZurek and Trig Rude from Marinette, Wisconsin. They are part of the Association for Community and Culture, a group that has been formed in the effort to save campus, a UW campus, branch campus. Do you guys, is there anything, a lot of these campuses have closed around Wisconsin. Are there other movements happening around the state that you know of similar to yours? And is there any benefit in sort of reaching out to them and seeing if anything can be done collectively?
We are following those other campuses, and some of them have their county or whoever the body is that oversees those campuses or owns the property. They have, I think John LaFave last night said there were for sure one grant in the hopper, but it wasn't approved yet. And he shared that campus was raising the buildings and looking at putting something else on the campus. So while we're following them, we don't know that it's what would be best for Marinette. Every community is very different. So we're called the Association for Community and Culture because we care about the cultural piece in our area. And I think sometimes people get lost in the idea that it's just Marinette, the city of Marinette, but it's Marinette, it's Menominee, and it's the counties. And that's 65,000 people, thanks to Trigvi calculating the numbers for us, that benefit from that area and can take advantage of those opportunities if they want to. So we really want to be that place where you can come and enjoy culture, and however that's defined by our community. Currently, it's through the forms of, theater and musical performances most often, and art. There are some art shows that take place.
You guys had this big meeting last night, and you had a turnout of around 80 people, which is pretty impressive. I mean, you mentioned 65,000 people, and that's a shock to me because I think of Marinette Menominee, I think of 18,000 people. You throw in Peshtigo, you're looking at 20, but I'm sure with the county and other cities, 65,000 is more accurate. That's a good turnout. What has the response been when you try to pitch people on this idea? Are you getting generally a positive response? Are people in favor of more culture?
I certainly see that. We've got a lot of work to do to continue to have friends join our group. And I don't think that's going to be a real hard task. We just got to keep working at it. But people are interested in it. And, people have ideas. And that's what we're all about. We want to hear the ideas that people have so that we can kind of be the clearinghouse for that and then present that to the county.
Go ahead, Wendy. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, just to follow up on that, there isn't a week when I'm out in the community that somebody doesn't approach me and ask me about the ACC. What is it? How can I get involved? Sometimes they have ideas, but it's become a pretty organic opportunity, I guess I would say, where people are hearing about it and coming to us, which is really nice.
That is nice. And I'll say, just if I can armchair suggest something here, I was talking to a friend of mine, and, anything you can do with parents empty their pockets for their kids, whether they're going to theater productions or hockey or ice skating on the weekends. If there's something with kids, it seems like that's the perfect, because parents will spend money on that stuff when it comes to like a sustainability issue. So I'm sure you guys are getting tons of great suggestions, and I wish you luck. I don't have $2 million, but I have $23 in an offshore account that the government can't touch. I'm happy to donate that to the cause.
We will gladly take it, and I'm going to write down your suggestion as well.
When do you guys need? When will this come to fruition, or when will you have an answer as to whether or not you can proceed? Do you think?
Do you want to speak to that, Trigby?
I don't. The lease that the county has with the university can be ended by the university in the month of June.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they're going to. They could continue it for another year. If it does happen in June, the pressure is really on us. The pressure is on the county to find, a source of money to keep running that. It's going to cost the county roughly $300,000 a year just to keep the place heated and, the things you have to do so a building doesn't crumble. And again, money's tough. So anyway, back to your question, we're going to have a meeting, our organization next week, and discuss what happened at the meeting last night. And then we will have a meeting before June for sure with the public again, to kind of summarize all the things that folks suggested for us and bring that back to the public.
That's outstanding. We have about 30 seconds left. I appreciate your time, you guys, and I wish you luck. Where can people find out more information? Do you have a website, or where can people go if they're interested in supporting the cause?
Yes, we definitely have a website, and you're going to ask me the address, and I don't know it right off the top of my head. But
can they Google something?
Unfortunately, we are not Googleable yet because we haven't gotten enough traction, but we do have a website and we do have an email address, and they can certainly reach out to Trigby or myself. And we will definitely, if there's a way we can get you some information, we will get that out there.
Outstanding.
Your mom is definitely the person that is getting all that information out there for us.
Thanks so much, you guys. I'm sorry we have to run. Good luck, and we'll be following. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll be right back.
Appreciate the opportunity.
BW.FM. The Todd Alba Show.
What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? Karina listening on WAUK in Milwaukee.
Slow drivers are the worst. They think too slow. They stop in the middle of the highway to think about where they're going. Maybe they need to turn left and right. They changing lines for oh my God, I can do all day long.
Karina, can you tell us what you really think?
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Mino and the Mayor.
He's negotiating with our paid sponsor here.
Sorry. That is true. Sorry. I forgot you were a paid sponsor.
Kristen Ambos, Point Mortgage Corporation. How are you, Kristen?
I am good. How are you guys doing?
Nice to see you.
I freaking love starting my mornings with you.
We love having you here. We really do.
Mino and the Mayor, weekday mornings 6 till 9 on 97.9 WGBW and 98.3 and 96.5 WISS and the Civic Media app.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding the unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google.
Of all the things that I've done, this has always been number one, baseball. The commercials, the films, the television series. I could never wait for everything to get over to get back to baseball. I still, and this is not sour grapes by any means, still think I should have gone in as a player.
He's down. Swinging a drive. Right center and deep. Get up. Get out of here. Gone for Fielder. He just hit a walk-off, and this one is over. Oh, what a shot by Fielder. Look out. Here he comes. They're waiting at home plate for him. He took a running jump on the whole pile. He could have taken everybody down with him, and he almost did. They're just pulling him to his feet. Whoa, what a shot.
Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason in his major league debut.
I'm gonna light your ass up, meat.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off is that close?
That's Bob Uecker. Some of Bob Uecker's highlights, such a unique career. Nobody that I know there have been other sports announcers in movies at times or on talk shows, but to do sitcom work, movie work, announce baseball games, do commercials, and just kind of do what he did was just a fascinating life and a very unique story. We'll have more about Bob Uecker tomorrow. Mike Clemens joins us tomorrow night at 6:35. We will put a bow on the Packers season and see what we can look forward to. The NFL draft is right around the corner. We'll ask Mike about that and ask him his thoughts on Bob Uecker as well. And this is exciting. Next Tuesday, Skip Kerperos will be on the show at 6:35. He was the guy next to Uecker in the booth for both Major League films. Skip is a Chicago comedian, very funny guy. We'll get his thoughts. He had a great time working with Bob Uecker. Skip will be on the show next Tuesday night. And then tomorrow, again, we'll have so Mike Clemens at 6:35. Meredith Jumisko, she's the marketing director of Visit Kenosha. She'll be on the show tomorrow night at 7:05 to discuss an upcoming event. And Bar Band Friday Night resumes tomorrow night with Max Inc. radio host Terry Barr. Terry will be back after taking a couple weeks off for the holidays. We missed her. Conrad, you said if you want to get a text in quickly, you can, folks. We still have time to read it. What comes to mind when you think of Bob Uecker? Pretty simple question, talking about one of Wisconsin's own. What comes to mind when you think of Bob Uecker? You can get a text in just under the wire. We've got Christine from Slinger who is checking in. She's in the 414. She says, some young player asked Uecker, what about you, Bob? Do you do Twitter? Uecker says, no, I take medication for that. Classic Bob Uecker. He will be missed. And another was part-time Wisconsinite today. David Lynch passed away. Lynch was the creative force and most often the director of Mulholland Drive, The Straight Story, Blue Velvet, Lost Highway, Wild at Heart, the show Twin Peaks, which has just gotten re-released on Blu-ray. Were you surprised to hear they were coming out on Blu-ray? Or re-released, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Blu-ray is kind of dead now, I feel like, right?
I have a Blu-ray player, but I don't know where it is. It's in my house. Honest to God, like, yeah. I think people just like having a physical copy of something.
I guess.
Because it is weird. I do own a few movies that I could only purchase at the time I wanted to watch them. So I own them. I don't even know how I would access them. Like, I guess I just sign on to whatever streaming platform I purchased it. But even then, you're clicking on stuff and scrolling, and I wouldn't even know how to find it. But David Lynch created Twin Peaks, a massive cult following, directed the first Dune film in the 80s. And I think I said that Blue Velvet was the first thing I saw from David Lynch when I was a kid. That's not true. I saw Elephant Man in the theater, and I literally started crying when the Elephant Man was on. It was just a phenomenally touching film, and we've got a bunch of ne'er-do-wells knocking on my window. Well, I'm trying to give a nice David Lynch soliloquy here. But anyway, the youth of Green Bay, they're the same ones that run their mufflers really loud because they don't have girlfriends. Anyway, David Lynch will be missed as well. So we got a fun show tomorrow night. We got another text coming in under the wire. People taking advantage. That's pretty cool, too. Annie from Watertown, again, says, what are the 2 words Euchre said at the loss of the final game of career recently? They are censored, so she says she can't find them. But you said, Conrad, you have his last words on his last broadcast.
Yeah, when the Brewers lost, he said, well, I can't lie, that one stung.
That's tough.
Or that one stings, yeah.
Those are Bob Euchre's last words on air.
Yep.
That's crazy. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, Annie, but that's what we have for you. So it sounded like kind of that's what you were inquiring about. Great show tomorrow night, as I mentioned, kind of a Civic Media All-Stars. Mike Clemens and Terry Barr will be here. Terry Barr will join us for Bar Band Friday night. I'm glad to be starting that up again. And we'll talk about a really cool event happening in Kenosha. We did not get to the Paul Blart clip we had. I will admit, I've probably talked about Paul Blart on this show way more than it's deserved. It was a cute movie, but I feel like we've talked about Paul Blart like 4 times in the last 3 months.
Well, do you see what year it came out?
Yeah, it dropped this week, right?
2009.
2009. Okay.
Yep.
But we had a very funny clip. We'll push that to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Got a lot of stuff to
great
get
clip.
to. So lots of fun tonight. Thank you to my guests, Arthur Ursink, Wendy DeZurek, and Trig Rude, and John Egan for popping on to talk about Bob Euchre. We'll have more Euchre talk tomorrow night with Civic Media Sports Authority, Mike Clemens. Thank you so much for your texts. Always more fun when you guys are involved. Another fun night here at Nightlight. We will be back tomorrow night to do it all over again. On behalf of the lovable producer, Conrad, I'm Pete Schwaba, saying goodnight, Wisconsin.
Take me to your best friend's house.